So I thought I would set myself a challenge. I'm doing 1 month of film photography exclusively, shooting away on loads of different film cameras. Why on earth do I think this is a good idea? Well, I think I rely on editing a heck of a lot. I think I'm always cropping in, removing distractions, and I think I'm using it too much of a crutch. Whereas with film photography, you just have to go with it and work on everything in camera. So I think it would be a good exercise. Now, I've shot with a number of cameras this month. I have a lovely simple point and shoot, and I have a couple of SLRs, and I just wanted to use these to see what works for me and what doesn't. I've also got a couple of different film stocks as well, because it's super important to get the right film for the right opportunities with film photography. I have got one slight problem though, and that's the first 2 film cameras that I've tried, I've not yet got the results back.
Whoa. What the hell? Snoot on that?
There is every chance that they could be completely blank. I could have light leaks. I've no idea, but I'm hoping that it's worked okay. Oh, you're angry at me. I understand. I'm going. So for film month, I quickly realised that I needed quite a bit of help. So I have enlisted my friend George. You may have seen his YouTube channel. If you don't, I'll link it below. It's excellent. And he shoots quite a lot of film. So I thought I'd pick his brains on what would be some tips if you were a beginner like me. What would you say is the biggest difference when you're shooting film versus digital?
How exposure works between different film and digital. So typically within film, it's easier to protect your highlights than it is to protect your shadows. So you can quickly lose detail in the shadows on film compared to on digital. You can easily recover detail in shadows, and then you lose detail in the highlights a lot easier. Say on a dim day like today, it's a little bit gray. If you can overexpose a little bit, you're going to be able to retain more of the detail in the shadows as well, without it becoming crushed blacks.
That's a really good point, and I really like the sort of slightly overexposed film look. I think the colours pop, and I do think it looks quite nice. So I might have a go popping my exposure compensation up a little bit later and see if that works. Might make Manchester on a rainy day look
okay.
Look like Barbados.
If you get slightly blown out highlights on film, the roll off is way less mid-tones to white, like it would be on digital. It's much more oh, this looks kind of okay. You can make mistakes in the highlights and people don't really notice as much.
Excellent.
Which is nice.
So one thing I've found is, because I take a little while to shoot one roll of film, and I've got, say, ISO 200 film in, I've not really considered that if I need to take it out at night or at sunset, that it's a lot less versatile than having a digital everyday carry camera. So my theory on this is I'm going to go out and commit to completing a roll of film, because when I leave them lingering in the camera, a month goes by and I forget what I've shot and I forget what's in the camera. So yeah, I'm going to commit, even though I'm a cheapskate and it hurts. I'm going to shoot a lot this month. So very serendipitously, if that's even a word, I've just received the scans from my first 2 rolls earlier in the month. It took blooming ages. And at first I'm like, oh, deferred gratification, isn't this lovely? It's so exciting. There's an element of suspense waiting for your film to come back. But it took ages, 10 days. So I need to find a better solution to that. But I'm very happy to report that the first 2 cameras were not broke, and this whole video is not in vain. So how do you think the exposure triangle is a little bit more tricky or easier with film? What do you reckon?
We're in such a good position today that we have digital, that we can change the ISO up to crazy big numbers, and we can kind of balance exposure using all 3. Whereas on film, you pretty much do have to pick. If I'm going to shoot ISO 400 film, I'm at ISO 400. You can only use your shutter speed and your aperture to compensate for that exposure. Choosing your ISO is really important. So say you have 200 film in here?
I've got a mixture of 200 and 400 today, and 400 in at the moment.
400 at the moment. So 400 for me, Manchester, which is where I pretty much always shoot. On a grey day like this, 400 is perfect. 800 is amazing. It's quite expensive a lot of the time, especially in colour. And then 200, I typically don't go near until I'm like on holiday.
And it's dead bright.
Yeah, I've only ever shot 100. I had like Kodak Ektar and I shot that in the bright snow. The whole world was a big like reflector and that was amazing.
Not even stopping. Digital cameras have, you know, different characteristics, different color profiles, whereas when you're thinking about film, it's more about the lens choice and the film choice.
Yeah, so it is very much, you kind of, when it comes from shooting on a digital sensor to a roll of film, the film is the sensor. When people say that, oh, a film camera does something to a photo, typically they are talking about the lens and then the actual film stock. And then even then, film stocks, they do vary quite a lot. And you're not always going to get consistent results out of the same film. I would say focusing on your lens choice is the most important thing with film cameras, and how much you enjoy the camera.
That's such a big thing.
Such a big thing. More up-to-date ones, like later film cameras, will have like metering through the viewfinder. I'm assuming this has that.
It does, yeah. It's so nice. Yeah. My theory on this at the moment, I'm shooting it mostly in auto because I'm more concerned about getting things in focus and getting things right. As long as my shutter speed looks like it's over 125th, I know that I'll not have motion blur.
Exactly.
And off I go.
Yeah, I feel like 1/125, you can be sort of walking.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
So I have been using 4 different film cameras in my month of film photography.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I've got like everything from a point and shoot to different SLRs, and one, checking that everything works by getting your film back is important, but also learning whether the light meter is correct, because it could be down to the battery levels, or if you've got a fault with the camera because it's very, very old. I think it's quite accurate.
Oh, I can see it, yeah. It's up there.
What I think it should be, I think it's quite accurate, but maybe we should get a phone app and double check, or get a digital camera and check.
I think if anyone's picking up their first film camera, there's 2 things to be really aware of. If it's being serviced by a shop, typically it's going to be in really good nick, and you shouldn't have any problems. But sometimes the light seals can deteriorate, and these bits of foam around the openings of the back of the camera. And if they have deteriorated, it means when you're carrying around the camera, light can get in and sort of start to like cause film burns and things like that, and light leaks. That will then ruin some of your images, which is not what you want.
And this is my fear, because I haven't actually got them back yet.
So it's all good. It's always good to test a really cheap roll. So you get like a 24 exposure of like Ilford HP5 and just test that, and then get some cheap development done. And then if it does come out with loads of light leaks, at least you haven't wasted loads of money.
That's it, yeah. I'm being really bougie today, so I've got my Portra 400 in, and I haven't tested this yet. I'm just rolling the dice and just throwing money away. Here is why I think digital cameras are better than film cameras.
When you do load film the first time, really making sure it is loaded, because the worst thing you can do is like spend a couple of days shooting a whole roll and then you get it back and there's no images on it. So whenever you do load a roll of film, when you start winding the film, you should always check that the sort of rewind winder is then winding when you load the next frame. And that's how you know it's actually loaded properly. Otherwise, yeah, you can take lots of amazing memories and then they never happened.
Just getting the film back was so exciting. You don't get that with digital. My little heart skipped when I saw that I got the email that everything was ready to be seen, and looking through them quickly on my phone now is amazing. I can't wait to sit down and look at them properly. I do think the excitement of it is something to bear in mind. I think it does give you a lot of joy and emotion, this whole experience, a lot more than just taking out a digital camera. I might be a convert.
Just a quick word from our sponsor. Filmora is a really simple to use video editing app, and it has a lot of impressive features that on other platforms you have to pay an arm and a leg for. Here are a few of my favourites. I love the smart cutout feature, which I've been using quite a lot in recent videos to give me effects like this. It's super simple to mask out pretty much anything you fancy in just a few clicks. There's also a brand new colour grading tool where you can emulate looks from popular films and TV shows. The best bit is this slider right here. If you've ever used Lux, you'll know how hard it is sometimes to get your skin tones right. This slider, Protect Skin Tones, will do just that. So you can get the overall vibe of a look, but also make sure your skin tones look true to life. It's also easy to track objects, which is super handy for adding titles and extra info, like this. Try out Filmora for free by using the link in the description. Okay, let's get back to it.
One thing I've found in this month so far is it's a very humbling experience. I think even though I know photography, there's so much that's out of my control and so much that's a little bit different. You've not got the safety rails of having digital and being able to fix it and have that instant feedback. So
Yeah.
I think it can make anyone a better photographer if you have the patience for it.
I think like shooting loads on digital is a good thing because it means you can get lots of different options of a shot. You shouldn't like stop shooting at loads when you're on digital, but I think when you do shoot on film for a bit, it does make you go for the better shot on digital first, rather than sort of going snap, 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 then moving in, snap, snap, snap. You kind of go for the shot you really want first.
That's £20, please.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were to go like, oh my God, 5 shots here, 5 shots there, you've gone through a third of a roll of film already. And you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money, so it's not worth it.
This is so against my grain as an absolute cheapskate. Like every time I'm so hyper aware that it's costing money every time I press the shutter, but it's fun. It's fun.
Exactly.
I'm embracing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to shoot like this and then I don't have a screen at the back.
So, should you give analog photography a go? Yes, it can be expensive, and yes, it can be hit and miss depending on about 100 different factors. I'm not really sure why my Kodak Gold in the Canon A1 came out like it did. It looked like it had been stuck in the camera for about 40 years, but it hadn't. And the Ricoh point and shoot is probably best left for friends and family and flash photography. But the Pentax ME Super in Manchester, third time's a charm, I guess. I'm really happy with these photographs. The rush of excitement I got when I got my scans back from the shoot with George, the very next day, I might add, thank you Come Through Labs in Manchester, when I saw that I hadn't actually messed up and most of the photographs were hits, I think I've took some photos that I'm really proud of. It really felt amazing. Analog photography takes you back to basics, where composition and timing and lighting can set you up for success. In an increasingly busy and fast-paced digital world, it was lovely to just go out and take some photographs and clear my mind and take my time.